Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another Revenue Hacks. You will notice that I am not Khristina. She's getting ready for the Impact Show next week, where Revenue Hacks and Revpar Media are both media partners for this virtual hospitality event. Khristina and I will be speaking and moderating, so be sure to sign up on the Rise Up page. We have codes for you. No, everybody loves a discount. Now we will get to introducing this illustrious panel we have today. We'll start with the French Bruce Willis.
Is it me? I guess yes. All right. So my name is Thibault. I'm the founder and managing director of Catala Consulting. We do revenue management for hotels across Europe. Yeah, happy to be here and discuss about Generation Z. I'm not Generation Z, by the way, but yeah, I'm looking forward to talk about it.
Is that me?
All right. Yeah, we'll go with you, Sheila.
Hi, I'm Sheila Krishnan, founder of SK Consultancy. We offer revenue management and commercial services to hotels in UK and Europe. And just like Thibault, I'm not a Gen Z either, but looking forward to discuss this topic today.
And hello, everyone. I'm Ryan Haynes. I'm a lead consultant at Haynes MarComs. We're a team of multi-skilled disciplinaries within marketing and communications for travel, tourism, and hospitality companies. I've got a couple of godsons and nephews who've given me some insights today.
All right. And I actually forgot to introduce myself, as I'm on the show every week, so I assume everybody knows me, but I am Calvin Tilokee, CEO of Revpar Media. Some of you may know me as Revparblums on Instagram, and I have started Revpar Media to help the hospitality industry tell the stories across social media. As mentioned, today we're talking about Gen Z. How much of a threat are they to the industry? Are they traveling? Will they be traveling? I played basketball against a few Gen Zers this weekend, and my feet still hurt. So that's about as close as I get to Gen Z these days. As always, we'll be taking questions and comments from the audience. So please be sure to chime in. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Hit us with the good comments, and we'll get them live on air. But Sheila is ready to go. That top left corner is always full of questions. So she's in the right spot. So let's get it going.
Yes. Yes, I mean, in the beginning, when I suggested the topic, Gen Z anti-travel, maybe, not so quite anti-travel. I think I agree when we discussed, in the green room just now. And yeah, we need to rephrase the topic. I would say Gen Z are the travel disruptors. It's a generation that grew up surrounded by technology, mobile, social media. They account probably 32% of the global population now. They outnumber the millennials, and probably they the oldest zillennial or Gen Z would be 20, 22 years old. And it's a generation, it's an online generation. It's all about mobile application. Do we have app this? Do we have app that? And as our industry, the travel and hospitality industry, are we ready for this generation? I think this is the question that, we want to discuss today, learn more about. And I think, Ryan, you might have some great insight for us. Who knows, do share. And then, we will keep asking the questions as well. And, and let's learn from one another.
I think what I found interesting when I was observing my nephews and godson, my nephew's just 10 and a half. He's very proud of the half, obviously. And my godson, who's just turned 18, is how they actually consume and how they engage and communicate, it's all about influencers. They have their big long list of YouTubers or Instagrammers, which they're constantly following. They're getting all the insight and the information. They're well, I wouldn't say they're well read because they don't seem to be reading much more, but they seem to be well versed in a lot of social and ethical and sustainable topics. They have a lot of insight that they can actually share, and I often have very intelligent conversations with them. But it's the way that they're communicating, particularly through the use of symbols, icons, emojis, and we're all sort of slightly getting used to that as millennials. But it's a whole new world when it comes to how we want to address them or how they're looking to be addressed. And I think a couple of things that we talked about in the green room, particularly, is this desire for uniqueness. And I think, this undefined identity, and it's one thing that we've seen growing over the last few years, particularly as how people identify themselves. And I think we've got to be a lot more aware, particularly that people won't necessarily have a fixed identity. They will be expecting to be recognized as an individual.
And we've also seen, I've not seen, but I think I've read several articles. 90% of the Gen Z travel decisions is based on what they see on social media. 30% decision on when it comes to the vacation destination, again, is about what posting they see on social media. So, and when we look at hotels' social media, it's there's not so much content. I mean, they are only just beginning to flood Instagrams, but then, Gen Z is not just about Instagram. It's about YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok. And I don't think our hotels and hospitality industry are into this yet. So, and this is where, we are lagging behind. And what do we need to do? And what do we think we need to be doing at the moment? Do we need to create a department just specifically in hotels for social media? That's a question, because it is a missed opportunity if you think about it.
Sheila, I'm going to take that clip and I'm going to send it to every prospect that I've talked to over the past year. Because you couldn't be more right. We are so far behind the curve. I think in hospitality, in tech in general, but especially on social media. I mean, we're not doing anything at all or enough, and it's treated like, let's just put something out there. Let's just let's throw it to the front office manager or the sales coordinator. We'll put up 2 or 3 posts a week. We have a presence. You're wasting your time. I think you're right. You either get an agency or you have to have a department that's dedicated to doing this. Again, coming from the revenue side of things, this has to be a strategy behind everything, right? You need to know who you're targeting. You need to know who your demographic is, who your audience is, who's your guest, who's traveling to your property. And, in the scope of this conversation, a lot of properties and a lot of businesses are shying away from TikTok. Well, we're too old for that. That's not our guest. The person who's on TikTok is your guest's child or niece or nephew, right? They may just the same way you see Disney commercials, at least here in the States, you see a Disney commercial about the kid who's on the laptop and he's researching Disney and he's telling his parents about it. That's what's happening here now. So what they see on TikTok or Instagram or anywhere on social media is what they're going to be telling their parents, their uncle, hey, this is where I want to go for my birthday, because, Justin Bieber was there last week or whatever the case may be. So you certainly hit it on the head right there. But I'll let you guys jump in. Like what would you want to see? Ryan, you said you have a lot of nieces and nephews. What are they looking at?
Well, it all comes down to the narrative, the story, and what you're saying there, and making sure that you're segmenting. And I hate to say the word segmenting in the world of personalization and you needing to utilize data as much as possible to target most relevant content and offers to different people. But as we're seeing with some of the bigger brands now who are moving, let's say the Disneys of the world, moving to RFID bracelets. And now, youngsters have got their RFID bracelets. They're no longer carrying a pocket with loose change given to them with pocket money. They've been given a credit that they can spend. You've got to be thinking how you're going to engage them in the products and services that you're going to be offering. You've got to find ways in which to capture that data to really understand what their interests are, utilizing new gaming technologies and interactive components through digital. Their life isn't digital. It has been incessantly virtual for them. And so they are looking for that connection, that real community experience. But they want it, that it's got to be unique. So when you're actually targeting and you're, especially when you're looking at families, because we are looking at families, we have to be thinking about these are going to be young adolescents going up to teenage, early 20s, often with their families still. And so whilst they might be making a lot of the travel decisions for their parents or with their parents, they will be wanting to do two completely different things whilst they're on vacation. And so trying to get that information is going to be particularly hard. You don't want it to be too historical. You don't want to be basing it just on reports that are out there. Start to garner your own data, maybe through, as you say, through social, by having different communication streams to target the different generations, because they will be wanting more of that multimedia content, and it will need to be presented by people that are like them, or like the YouTubers and the Instagrammers that they are actually following. So a lot more personality, a lot more experiences that are being demonstrated that they could join in on. So it's not necessarily about placing it in the hands of someone that age. It's about certainly looking to those who can understand how to develop a continuous narrative that constantly provides content that they can engage with.
Well said.
I was reading something on the exactly on what you mentioned about the social media. I was reading that 87% of the travel decisions made by Generation Z are influenced by social media. Like look at Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. So it's very important that they're looking at social media to take the decision. So now it's not really, as we mentioned at the beginning with Sheila, it's not very anti-travel generation. It's more like it's a totally different type of travel, and that's why we need as in the hospitality industry to be ready to accommodate those one, because Generation Z will be as they're younger today, they will be older, and then they will have more buying power. So we need to make sure to be ready for this. But yeah, it's totally different from before. Like let's take the example of Dubrovnik in Croatia, where people have been, as a Generation Z, have been traveling there because of Game of Thrones. Or look at, I think it's England or Ireland with Downton Abbey. So people are looking for those kind of experience. So they're looking for those kind of a bucket list. Oh, I've been traveling to Game of Thrones. I've been there. Look at the series. I've been there. So it's a totally different type of travel pattern and behavior. So again, if you have a small hotel or anywhere, look at any kind of pattern linked to TV shows, to experience. I don't know, like I think those kind of communication can be the right trigger to target the Generation Z correctly. And then again, even if it's the younger telling the parents, it's still an influence. So yeah, I think like we can be very creative to target this one.
I mean, I think there's a couple of other things to be thinking of. It's not just TV programs. Big things for this audience are anime. As an example, gaming is massive. I mean, amount of times I've been sat at a dinner table and, one of my nieces is on her phone playing a game. She's connected in her ear to a friend of hers who's at home playing another game, and they're chatting away to each other. I'm like, are you part of this conversation? Are you at the dinner table with us? And you've got to be thinking, actually, their perspective of space and time and connection is completely different to all of ours. They could be actually engaging with one of their friends who's in a completely different destination, completely different location. How can you connect in that way? And I think that, going to that question here, how much of a threat are Generation Z? And I think this is, how much of a threat have millennials been? Because actually millennials disrupted the use of technology. Whereas today, it's Gen Z are more disrupting the way we communicate, utilizing that technology. And that is where, and I won't say it so much, is where data is so paramount. You've got to be collecting your cookies and really understanding sort of what people are doing, how they're doing it, breaking those different audience groups down so that you can start to deliver those more unique experiences that tap into their sustainability, the ethical awareness that they have now. And, I think, they've also been impacted by their parents' generation. And if you think about their parents, they went through terrorism and a recession. So people were worried about safety and security, and they were worried about money. So this idea of the snowflake generation, so to speak, you've got to take that into account. They want adventure, but it's got to be safe. And so start thinking about, how you're communicating some of those things and some of those trigger points, because I think there's a lot more anxiety now in the world, and people are much more aware of their personal feelings and the feelings of people around them, and they're not afraid to share those feelings. And I think we just need to put our heart on the shoulder a hell of a lot more than we used to, in order to really draw people in to feel the emotion that they're going to get whilst they're experiencing their travels.
I love this one when actually some people are trapped, or Generation Z mostly, or as well millennials, are traveling to some destination for 1 or 2 specific pictures they have seen on Instagram. And they are traveling to like a lavender field just to take this picture in the middle of the lavender with a hat in their hand and so on. That's still something I don't understand, but there is a lot of travel and interest for this kind of thing, like in London or in Paris. And like Yanis was mentioning something on the comments. But yeah, definitely that's a new pattern that we take into consideration.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that comment because I think it's going to lead to some interesting conversation there. So Giannis, who's here with us every week, he might as well join the show now. But he's saying, on the other hand, some travel destinations are fighting under the social influence. New Zealand has made a very funny campaign with Tom Sainsbury with a mission to stop people coming into New Zealand only to take the same photos that are on Instagram. I won't pronounce that. You want to help me there, Thibault?
It's a Crémieux Street.
Crémieux Street in Paris. Paradise for Instagrammers has forbidden to take photos in the street because of the disturbances. I will say it's interesting. I live in LA now. I moved here about 6 weeks ago, and it's really funny to just watch people try to live for social media. I was at a pool recently, and these 3 girls were having an argument with the waiter because they wanted a bottle of champagne on the pool deck. And it took him 10 minutes to explain why he couldn't put a glass bottle near the pool. And the only reason they wanted a bottle was so they could take the pictures for Instagram. You're like 19 years old. You don't know a whole lot about champagne at this point. I really don't think, all due respect. But yeah, it's an interesting comment. Like, do you think that's a wise idea for these destinations to kind of fight against it? Or is it kind of fun that they've noticed it and now just kind of having fun with the whole concept?
It's interesting because on the other hand, I can't remember where I saw it. Countries like Sweden are using TikTok to promote tourism. So I think every destination has their own story. But what we can say is, if you do not get involved now, you are going to miss the boat because, the generation is changing. As quite rightly we said just now, the Gen Z is going to be our future consumers, 40% of the future consumers. So, we need to do what is right now to attract this generation. Otherwise, we're going to miss the boat.
Why not organize Instagram days or TikTok days or special spaces and places where people can do random acts where on location in the destination at the property and consider the safety that you need to be putting into place. So maybe you don't give them a glass bottle, you actually give them a plastic bottle that looks like a glass bottle, right? Because all they're going to be doing is taking a photo of it. They're not going to be drinking it because they're not really really drinkers, this generation. They like to socialize, but they're not like the generation of mine were when we went to university, where we're pretty much out every single night. They study hard. They have huge debts when they come out of university. So they want to make sure that they get the qualifications when they go through. The other thing is the impact the pandemic has had. Adolescents, teenagers have spent their entire 18 months in front of Zoom. They've had to learn to self-teach. They've had to learn to discover things on their own. They've had to be very creative with solving the problems of their own education themselves. And as that, they're going to be highly flexible, agile people who are able to be incredibly autonomous at the same time. So you've got to give them their due. There'd be a sense of naivety because they might not necessarily have a greater social awareness outside of their own bubble. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they're perhaps going to be much more aware of how to achieve things on their own. And therefore, I think that entrepreneurial aspect could certainly grow significantly more. And as I say, when we're talking about the uniqueness thing, finding ways in which they can make their experiences as exclusive as possible, because in some ways it's their way of doing better than their mates, to show that they've done a little bit more. The boomers were more than happy to say that they all went to a beach in Mallorca and did the same thing. Whereas now it's more about someone discovering something that someone hasn't.
And also, I mean, you talked about entrepreneur. It's true. A lot of them, they no longer want to have an occupation per se. They want to be a founder. They want to be a startup. They want to. I think I mentioned just now. They are the Greta Thunberg generation. Very concerned about special causes in terms of environment, sustainability. What they do, how does it affect the environment? What is the social impact? And a lot of them also have become a digital nomad. So which means they can move. They can move as they work, and hotels in Asia are doing very well. Like in Bangkok and Bali, they have hotels with for these digital nomads where 7 days is all planned out. They have their breakfast, they have their yoga sessions, they have, how do I say, it's kind of like a combination of mindfulness, yet work, and also leisure, relaxation at the same time. And this is where I think they are going to be a huge threat for the hotels, the luxury market. That's going to be a huge threat.
I mean, I think it will be interesting. If they're going to go away somewhere, they want to be able to make most of it whilst they're there, and they've got that flexibility in their jobs and their schedules, because they don't feel they have to work from 9 till 5. They could do a couple hours in the morning, a couple in the afternoon. They could do it from a coffee shop, anywhere they can get a decent connection. I can see that Clara has put an interesting comment there, particularly about the impact on reviews. And whether hotels should open themselves up to that. And I would say, you know what? If hotels haven't opened themselves up to reviews already, then close, because you shouldn't be open. I'm fed up of hearing about hotels that don't have social, that don't do email campaigns, that are not connecting on digital. I'm sorry, but you should be dead and buried by now. Because, even my grandma at the age of 86 is happily using a mobile phone, smartphone, messaging, emojis, all the luck. So they really need to be utilizing reviews. And the thing is, it's not about receiving a negative review and ignoring it. It really is about engaging with it, having a conversation. They want dialogue. You've got to be able to communicate online. You can't just be leaving it to everybody else to just answer on your behalf. Have an open discussion. They want transparency. And this is all really about being, I guess, ethical. Are you able to address the issues that you're challenging them about? And what are you going to do about it? And I think sometimes hotels have just shied away way too much. I mean, you see it throughout hospitality. You get, I work in PR, right? We're constantly writing reputation management statements and crisis management statements. And oh God, they are a bit bland after a while. So, you've just got to be honest and say, you know what? You get it wrong. we got it wrong. We're going to make changes, and this is what we're going to do. And you know what? Next day, you're going to post a video showing the different processes that you've changed, showing the different training that you're going through. And you know, that's what they want to see. They want to be recognized that, you know, okay, you're not perfect. No one is, but we'll work really hard to try to satisfy someone's needs.
Yeah, I think where you'd really lose this generation is what I see a lot, where people comment on a post. If you're one of the hotels who is actually trying to do something on social media, and they leave a comment and you don't respond, that's where you're going to lose them. I was dealing with a hotel some months ago that is promoting themselves as tech forward. You know, there's no one at the front desk. You can check in mobilely and on all of these things. I did a test where I sent the message to their app asking about rates at one of their locations. It took a full day to get a response. And when the response I got was, please call the hotel at this number. You do that to someone in Gen Z, you will never hear from them again. They would never hear from me again.
I read. Sorry, go on.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I read somewhere Gen Z also is a generation that has a short span of attention. So they wanted the information there, quick. Connectivity. I think Ryan quite rightly mentioned just now. It's about connectivity and the communication to this unique trait of behavior, and I think transparency is very important, because they want to know, is the property right fit for me, is the place right fit for me. But I also think it's about ease of accessibility, so applications, from a technology perspective. Do you not agree? Having an app to communicate, because they are a generation, they want information straight away. Okay, how do I get there?
But that's the whole point. That's the whole point, though. That is the thing that frustrates me. They want it now. They're not going to wait 24 hours. I mean, I've been waiting for a delivery, right, for the last 4 days. I've already sent an email 3 times and I haven't got a response. I am frustrated. I've called them. I've left a voicemail. I'm like, why haven't I got a response? And I'm 38. What if I was 18?
Exactly.
Ryan is ready to break the webcam like this. Okay, guys, you have to be on the newsletter. The last 10 minutes was like, yeah.
No, exactly. I mean, every hotel can't create an app. Every hotel chain can't create their own app, but you can start an Instagram page for free. You can start a Facebook page for free, right? And that's your app. That's your way to communicate to all of these guests. And if they send you a DM with a question, this is like any, the old school people will know in sales, right? If you get a lead, you have a 1 to 3 hour window to respond to that. I believe Marriott came out with that a few years ago, where it was mandatory. If it's within 6 months, you have 1 hour. 6 months or more, you have 3 hours to respond. And social media is the same way with these comments and these DMs. If they send you something, you've got to get back to them quickly. Otherwise, they're lost. They're on to the next one. And I mean, we were everywhere. I don't care what market you were in. You were fighting for business pre-COVID. How hard do you think you have to fight now?
And
you can't make these kind of mistakes.
It's all well and good having an app, but don't expect someone to sit there in front of a computer waiting for the next message to come through. You need a chatbot. You need to make sure you train this and use automation as much as possible. Their technology's out there. It's been out there for over 12 years. And why we're not using it? How many of us have been onto other retail sites and you're able to chat away to someone, a bot, but nonetheless, you're still getting the answers that you want. And especially some of these larger hotel brands and travel companies, I'm banging my head against a brick wall, wondering why on earth they're not using this technology, because it frees them up from having to pay someone £20,000-30,000 a year, invest it in a bot.
Right. And also Clara had a follow-up. She said Gen Z usually do not like calling at all, which
that's true. That's true. Yeah. I think even our generation don't like calling at all. We just want information straight away.
Exactly. No, I think all of us have become a bit used to that. But go ahead, Thibault.
I think I can even push the exercise further. I will say, like Generation Z are much more tempted to book on OTA than on direct and calling and so on. I don't have the statistic on this one, but I'm quite sure that we'll use Booking.com Expedia because it's much more simple and they can see reviews, they can see everything. So it's built for them rather than the direct bookings and everything. And because, again, you can talk to someone at Booking.com Expedia, so that's much more tempted. So in terms of distribution, and that's the revenue manager talking, I think we also need to take this into consideration. When we leverage OTA, we kind of attract different markets because they tend to book differently than the older generation. But yeah, I'll be interested. If anyone listening has any data on Generation Z booking pattern, I would be interested.
I would agree with that. I mean, I don't have stats either, but I mean, ever since they've been born, they've been hearing this, at least here in America, they got the Priceline negotiator, and, Expedia.com, like they've grown up on that. Right. So we remember a time before that they don't. So
actually, sorry.
No, I mean, you've got to remember their age at the same time and what their affordability is going to be. Because if they are under 22, how many holidays are they actually going to be booking? And who are they going to be booking these holidays with? And what size groups? And who's going to be the lead party booker there? And I think that you've really got to be recognizing that this is a generation that is coming. This is a generation we need to be much more prepared for and better understand how they start to calculate their expenditure and where they're more willing to invest. Are they more looking for the experiences or are they looking for a better accommodation? I was more than willing to go cheap on accommodation and experience as much as possible. But, how much is that necessarily going to change? And it's going to be more about, being in one location and staying there for a lot longer of the time. I see that Kevin says about eco and sustainability and how much we have a lean in that direction. I think we've seen with Greta Thunberg, it's not about saying, it's about doing. And it's actually about demonstrating how you are recycling and not just putting it on a little piece of paper to say that you're not going to come and clean their rooms today, but actually showing what you're doing with the wastewater, how you're recycling that, how much of your products are from recycled materials, how you're perhaps reclaiming or reusing certain items and how you're perhaps reinvesting. The carbon footprint thing, this sort of aiming for net zero is going to be a big drive in that direction. I'm currently working with an energy firm who's it's all about renewable energy, but at the same time, they've got a massive social mission to be affordable and inclusive of all stratas of society. Now, this is massive as well for Gen Z because it is about inclusivity. I mentioned earlier about them not having a defined identity, as we've seen with the way we may refer to people today, that use of pronouns and how that's changed massively over the last decade. So you've also got to think about the implications of race and gender and sexuality and how you can't be generalistic anymore. When you're thinking of targeting people getting married, you've got to be as open and as wide as you possibly can be, and the type of guests that you might be getting for their weddings, and maybe what type of honeymoons there are. I mean, there are more honeymoons happening now with younger generations where it's not just the married couple going away, it's a married couple and their friends, and it's becoming, a big moon party. So there needs to be, we need a more open mind. We need to challenge ourselves and relearn everything that we've understood. In fact, that we ourselves, our generation, we disrupted it. We started to cause a lot of this. And, in the same way that we blame the baby boomers for all the problems with plastic and pollution, we have to recognize that we have had a big part to play in social disruption and the way we utilize technology, and not just say, oh, well, we'll leave it to the younger generation to deal with, or, oh, it's the older generation's fault. No, we all have a part to play of really involving everybody within that journey and recognizing everyone as individuals and helping them express themselves through consumption. And ensuring that it's fully anchored on strong ethical beliefs.
I mean, I do have just one follow-up question to that. Are people really taking friends on their honeymoon?
Yeah.
That's yeah.
That's weird.
For me, yeah, it must be. That's how you know I'm old. That doesn't even. No way. I'll see you when I get back, man. Don't even text me.
Well, you've also got the hen and stag parties, and they're no longer hen and stag parties.
It's everybody.
They're all joined together.
Yeah.
You know,
You take your parents-in-law with for your honeymoon.
Yeah, no. You don't even discuss those parties. Much less bring your friends.
It shows you how much a generation has changed, isn't it? I mean, you know, if I write out my ideal stag party, you know, I wouldn't want anyone to experience see the consequences of that. But you know, there isn't that need in the same way to, you know, get consumed with too much intoxicants like there used to be. It wasn't about waking up in Las Vegas and wondering what happened last night. It is very much about, I want to know what happened. I want to know I had those experiences. I want to leave with that memory in mind rather than just a hangover. So you know, it's
kids know
not
nothing.
more healthy. No.
Now, I have you know, back Instagram days, it's all about hotels, you know, getting influencers. In fact, we used to have these platforms where you can go and target the influencers, the entertainment agencies to get one of their celebrities to come and stay and post about the hotel. Do you think, because as much as this generation is about social media and it's all about, do you think they are influenced by celebrities? Do hotels need to invest in this particular kind of, you know, social media impact, like to get a celebrity?
Yeah, I put actually a post today. I was preparing for this discussion on the influence of an influencer on my LinkedIn profile, and it seems like depending on the destination, you have more or less influence. But in my opinion, looking at the data, it seems like we have reached a point of stagnation where people don't see the influencers as experts in their field for different products and areas. So I will say yes, but be careful on who you contract with. Again, and I hate seeing like now I'm doing to a Ryan when I jump and so on. I hate seeing the influencer asking for free stays, free meals, free everything in exchange of a visibility on the Instagram profile with 1.2 thousand followers, Zmom and thousands of bots. That pisses me off because those hotels are actually fed up, actually not fed up, actually struggling with the cash and everything, and still they receive 5-10 requests of Instagrammers and influencers for stays, free stays in their properties. If you really care about the property, if you really care about the destination, you should be actually willing to pay a bit for this kind of thing. Yes, in exchange of visibility and so on, but still to pay some to pay your part. So I mean, influencer, yes, but control it carefully.
I mean, we do PR, right? And we were only having this conversation yesterday when we were on a press trip in London. Woohoo! Finally. And we were talking about the difference between, you know, the influencers, the bloggers, and the celebrities. You know, 3 very, very, very different audiences there. And you need to have a policy in place. You need to decide, okay, how many followers do you need to have for me to say yes? You are an influencer, because I've got mates of mine who've got 3,000-4,000 people on Instagram account. Doesn't mean they're an influencer by any means. I want to know who their audience is and what it is. And that is when I'm talking to these influencers or even journalists or publications. Who are you talking to? What is your level of influence? Actually share with me the data. You need data from them. If they're going to tell you how influential they are, demonstrate it. Because in the same way that I keep talking about data, you need data, they need data, you need to prove it. Let's get a little bit more transparent here. Start thinking about how you can utilize also tracking within all of this as well. So, you know, if you are going to give them a free bottle of wine, give them a link. You make sure it's a trackable link. Make sure that you can actually measure that impact. And if it doesn't do anything, you don't give them a free bottle of wine again in future. So you need to start and have a word with a specialist, a consultant who can actually help you identify some of these KPIs and understand how that is actually feeding both your revenue and your brand awareness. Because without understanding where that revenue is necessarily coming from, then again, I mean, Thibault, you know, I mean, you're constantly tracking all of this, right? And, you know, the way that revenue is going to be achieved now, the customer journey is just going to be stretched out and stretched out and stretched out, you know, where you can book a hotel app 3 or 4 weeks in advance, and then go through the stages. You know, take Crichton, for example. You know, you can constantly engage with that guest before arrival, sell them additional promotions, give them additional options that they can have whilst they're there. People will start to think about what they want to experience and just keep buying as they're going through that experience. And so you need those touch points. You need to recognize that customer journey, because that's exactly what they want. We've been working with Book Boost, and, you know, the impact that SMS, WhatsApp messaging has on revenue generation is massive, but also in saving operations and revenue, because actually you can just message the guest and say, do you need your room cleaned today? And they can say no. Great. Well, that's half an hour saved, isn't it? That's a little bit of extra money and water and God knows what else we need to worry about. So I think that, you know, you need to combine heads with revenue and marketing as closely as possible, and make sure that, you know, where revenue is struggling, you get the marketing team involved. You make sure that they help them identify. In the same way, if marketing's struggling to drive the results that you need to get revenue to help you understand what products you could potentially put out there to the marketplace. Because I think too often, I've seen too many hotel marketeers just do promote some sort of aspect of the hotel without actually having an offer alongside it. And therefore, if I receive that in an email, I'm lost. I don't know how I'm going to engage with it. And the same thing for younger generation. There has to be a call to action. There has to be a reason behind everything that you do.
Yep, it has to be strategy. Absolutely. And one thing I wanted to jump back into what you were saying too, it comes down to engagement. Right. So to answer the question, of course, you can still use influencers. You should be, but you have to use the right ones. You know, it's not all about how many followers you have. You do have influencers who have 3,000 to 4,000 followers. Right. But their engagement is strong. Right. If you does it fit in with your niche? Does it fit in with the audience you're trying to reach? You know, one of the comments here, actually, it's a funny one from Dylan saying, I've twice had influencer pet Instagram accounts request free nights for their owners. The funny thing is, if you have a pet friendly hotel and you have that kind of a demographic, that could work. I'll give you an example. I was in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago. There's the Hotel Nico. They have an entire account for their hotel dog. Very cute dog. I've been following it for years. It finally hit me. I was in San Francisco. I was 2 blocks from this hotel. And I said, hey, you know what? I've got to run over. I want to see the dog. Right? If you're that hotel and you have somebody reach out to you with this type of an offer, this type of an influencer, that may work for you. That might be something you want to do, because now this pet is interacting with the pet at the hotel, and you have all of these people who are following will be interested in wanting to go to your hotel. That's not going to work for everybody, but again, it comes down to what works for you. Who are you going after, right? And now, if that influencer could be the right one for you, if you're at, you know, an airport hotel that's not pet friendly, obviously not.
Great point. Yeah, I think it's about time hotel relook at their strategy, their marketing strategy, and working alongside with revenue. No more silo working, because quite often the challenges in the past has been, okay, marketing, I'm posting on Instagram and it's all about number of likes we have, but what does it relate to? You know, how does it drive revenue? And like you say, call to action. You know, no one's interested in the picture of the chair or the building.
Drives me nuts. I've worked at hotels. I have 18, 20,000 followers. Their engagement is 0.1%. What's the point of that page? What's the point of that
Exactly.
page? Every post is the same picture of either the hotel room. They can see that on your website, a drink at the rooftop, or it's all the same stuff. Get creative. Really have a strategy for it, and figure out who your audience is, who you're trying to try to get, and have some fun with it. This is completely. This is where you can be completely transparent, authentic, and really engage with your audience. Where there's no other way to do that. Nobody's going to do that via email.
And actually, there's an event down here. I'm in Bournemouth, the south coast of the UK. Beautiful 3-mile Golden Beach. Okay, if anybody wants to visit this summer, but they have an event every year called the Bournemouth Sevens, and this is a rugby event. And it's not just about playing rugby. It is a whole event where you get teenagers and young 20-somethings coming together, university students, and it's gone from being like a small event of maybe about 10 teams to being thousands of people, becoming a music festival, all built around rugby. So, maybe think about, what you are doing at your hotel that could bring a community like that together from all across the country or the world, to unite people for something there's a common interest, a common passion. I mean, when we're talking about pets, I mean, why not have some sort of pet show at your hotel and be renowned as a pet property? And these sorts of things will get people interested. They have to bring their pets. You can give a few Instagrammers a few free rooms to help publicize that. So really start. It's about creativity. And it's one of the things I said at the beginning is that youngsters are now looking for more creativity in the way you engage with them, not one size fits all.
I feel as well that Asia is much more in advance than Europe at the moment. Like I was looking at Hong Kong hotels and so on. They do like a regularly some pet show, also pet catwalk or baby concourse with the most beautiful hat or whatever, and it works. Like they bring like 1,000 or 100 of people every brunch on Sundays. So this creativity, I think it's something like we need to embrace and we need to change as well in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, going back to the top of the conversation, this is a generation that is, constantly being bombarded with something, whether it be gaming or something else. It needs to be fun. It needs to be creative. Have your EC team dress up like Fortnite characters, do the dances, something.
And not to forget the impact on environment and social. It's identifying all this uniqueness and catering to it, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, I think one of the points that Khristina had mentioned when I was talking to her was about this, is this generation going to become a silent generation? And that silent generation is anybody now over the age of 80 who, probably were more that they just went to a local fishing town or a local beach town for their holidays. And, as we've seen with the pandemic and the challenge of being able to travel, that might actually be the case for the next 5 or so years, because they won't know how to travel. They won't know how to go to security unless they go with their families. And what family is going to pay these high costs for PCR tests and to, risk the threat of their holiday being cancelled or whatever. So whilst we're all, wanting the industry to come back, we've got to be aware that this will massively impact youngsters' awareness and understanding of international travel, and therefore they might be a little bit more risk averse and choose to stay a lot more local and do a lot more staycations. So just really have that in mind, and maybe have a heart back to the 1940s and 50s and just see what some of the travel tourism companies did back then.
All right. Well, I think we said a lot today. We could keep going on here. I know Sheila probably has 8 more questions that we didn't get to, but that just means Ryan will have to have you back on a future show and get into this again. Thank you all for joining us today. Great show, great conversation. Be sure to join us next week as we are talking about silos in hotels, as Sheila so nicely segued a little bit earlier. The kids call that an Easter egg. in the video game when there's a little thing that's hidden. That's the Easter egg. So we're going to start doing that in the episode. See if you guys can figure out what we'll talk about next week. But we gave you that one for free. Again, Revenue Hacks and Revpar Media are partnering with the InnoFact show next week. So you can, if you're not sick of hearing me talk yet, or Khristina, be sure to tune into that. Go on the Rise Up LinkedIn page. We have some codes for you to get yourself a nice little discount. And I've got a lot going on. Great action-packed show for the next June 8th and 9th, 2 days virtual. So you don't even need to leave your living room to get some great information. All right. We'll see you next week.
Thank you all.
All the best.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.